That's not your seat. The words didn't need to be shouted at the store, just loud enough to be heard, soft enough to be considered polite, and sharp enough to be felt. The Sky Range Shooting Center in Colorado, where only those who paid over $100,000 a year were allowed to enter, had just fallen silent when the old woman with white hair, black skin, and an old wool coat walked into the main hall. No one knew her name. No one cared. To them, she was just a registration error in the system. Maybe you're wasting your space. We don't rent out shooting ranges to vagrants. She didn't answer. She just quietly put down the old skin rub. The edge of the box was dry, the lock was faded. When it swung open, the light reflected off the metal inside, making the instrument seem frozen. An M40A5, no chips, no sensors, but once the most powerful on the battlefield, gone without a trace. And underneath it, the steel plate faintly reads: USMC, confirmed kills, 8-3, call sign, Echo Ghost. 30 minutes later, the room wakes up. Not allowed. Because they just architected a legend back from oblivion. And she hasn't fired her last round yet, asterisk asterisk.
Earning. That seat's not for you. The words dropped quietly, just loud enough for everyone to hear, soft enough to seem polite, but sharp enough to cut. Inside the chrome and glass walls of Sky Range, Colorado's elite sniper facility, where only those paying six-figure membership fees dared walk, time froze the moment she touched the armrest of firing lane 1, the seat reserved for VIPs. No one introduced her, no entourage followed. An older black woman, maybe in her 60s, with silver hair tied back neatly, walked right into the heart of a world owned by ex-generals, private defense tycoons, and billion-dollar contractors. She wasn't wearing Italian leather. She didn't flash an exclusive badge. All she carried was an old leather bag, something that looked more like it belonged at a bus station than a sniper range, built like a fortress. And that's why they laughed. We don't serve people like you. The front desk clerk tried to smile as he said it, though his tone betrayed a different message. All guests must verify through biometrics you're not in the system. Dahlia didn't flinch, she didn't argue. She just set the bag down gently, calmly unfastened the leather flap, and opened a wooden case lined with aged velvet. Lighted steel. Cold, aged steel. An M40A5. No GPS. No laser. No AI. Just old-school scope and forged steel. The kind of weapon that once silenced entire fields with a single shot. Looks like a museum piece, a man in a Griffin defense uniform muttered. Or a war trophy. No one knew who she was, and that made it easier to mock her. One started filming, another leaned in with a whisper. Looks like Grandma's sniper found her way to Colorado. If she didn't say a word, she simply pulled a small tarnished metal tag from her coat. Etched by hand, barely legible. USMC, confirmed kills, 83. Call sign, Echo Ghost. And as the lights on the range powered up, something in her gaze made even the most smug skeptics fall quiet. Sky Range, fortress of the gun elite. Built deep into Colorado's Rampart Range, Sky Range, was more than a sniper facility. It was a proving ground for the military elite, defense CEOs, and high-stakes contractors. Every tool here was tech-enhanced: wind calibrators, distance sensors, predictive scopes, AI-assisted recoil suppressors. A single practice session here cost more than most used cars. And today the facility was hosting its signature event, Precision over Flesh, a competition designed to prove that no human could outperform tech. Hosting the spectacle was Jackson Creed, CEO of Armcorps Solutions, a man once accused of staging real-time field tests in unregulated conflict zones. He took the stage like a pop star, headset mic gleaming on his collar, waving to a crowd of elites. Today we prove that machines outperform men. And if anyone dares challenge that, the lane is open. Laughter erupted. Then, all at once the laughter stopped. Everyone turned to watch the old black woman stepping up to firing lane 1. First round, a ghost and a gun with no brain. "Ma'am, are you sure you want to do this?" the range officer asked, half amused, half pitying. "Home shot is enough," Dahlia replied. She walked forward without hesitation, as if cameras locked in. No thermal sensors, no smart visor, no adaptive scope. Just her ancient rifle and a target 600 yards away. She lifted the M40A5. Her movements were quiet, deliberate, like choreography written in the bones. Is she eyeballing the wind, using arthritis sensors? Someone snorted. Then, the screen lit up. Bullseye, dead center. Gasps, confusion. She chambered the next round. Target 650 yards, destroyed. Lucky shot. Or a glitch. They didn't understand. Not yet. She lifted the rifle again. This time she aimed slightly off target. The bullet ricocheted off a steel panel into a mirrored relay, then struck a drone target launched mid-air, dead center while spinning. Silence shattered like glass. No one spoke. Accordingly, no one smiled. No one knew what they'd just seen, only that it wasn't luck. It was a message. It never left. She just went quiet. Dahlia gently placed her rifle back into the case, locked it shut like sealing a relic. Then she turned and bowed, softly, "Thank you for the opportunity." And just like that, she walked away. No one called after her. No one dared stop her. Jackson Creed stood frozen. Everyone in the room stood up, not out of courtesy, but because something in them wouldn't let them sit. From the sidelines, Dahlia Monroe, her niece, a young journalist filming a documentary on racial disparity in elite shooting sports, stood trembling behind her camera. "Dahlia, where'd you learn to shoot like that?" Dahlia didn't answer right away. She looked out toward the mountains, where the sun had just begun to dip below the ridge. "From someone the world chose to forget. But I didn't. And tomorrow, the world wouldn't forget her either." At precisely 4:06 p.m., just as the last echo of her shot faded over the hills of Rampart Range, a secure alert buzzed silently in a glass-walled office 2 floors above Sky Range's main arena. Jackson Creed's expression didn't change, but his eyes did. The name blinking on his screen shouldn't have been there. Dahlia Monroe, callsign Echo Ghost. Underneath it, stamped in red, "Officially decommissioned, file sealed, Le Second 12, 1912 Operation Black Whisper." He stared at the image that had just surfaced. Grainy, black and white, clipped from a declassified satellite feed. A sniper perched atop a dusty rooftop in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, 2009. Target acquired. Kill confirmed. She wasn't supposed to exist anymore. And if Jackson Creed had done his job right 12 years ago, she wouldn't. 12 years earlier, Fob Sentinel, Helmand Province. The heat was brutal. Wind carried more dust than air, coating every inch of the forward operating base. Inside the operations tent, Jackson, then still Major Creed, stood in front of the tactical map, flanked by contractors, analysts, and 3-star generals half drunk on bourbon and politics. Across from him stood a woman in standard-issue Marpat fatigues, face unreadable, fingers resting on the sling of her M40A5. "You want me to shoot a child?" she said flatly. "Oh, he's not a child, he's a courier," Jackson replied. "Our intel says he's delivering coded coordinates to a sleeper cell in Kandahar. He's 10, and he's carrying bread. And inside that bread could be a chip that'll detonate half the base you're standing in. We don't have the luxury of doubts, Sergeant Monroe, just results. She didn't blink, but she didn't follow the order either. Hours later, another sniper took the shot. The boy fell. No chip, no intel, just bread, still warm, soaked in blood. And Dahlia Monroe walked off the field. The aftermath, one ghost too loud. For weeks after, Creed tried to contain. She filed a formal complaint, not through military channels but to the Senate Oversight Committee, an act of war in itself, against a culture of silence that protected men like him. Worse, she had records, drone logs, radio transcripts, even witness statements from 2 whistleblowers who vanished within months. So Creed did what he was trained to do. He erased her. Her file was sealed under the cover of Operation Black Whisper, a highly classified black-budget operation, officially designated in. Her sniper unit was disbanded, her record marked dishonorable noncompliance. Her medals revoked, her benefits pulled. She was unpersoned, professionally executed by the very bureaucracy she'd once protected with every bullet she fired. And now, here she was, standing in his arena, holding the same rifle, still breathing, and worse, being watched. The footage goes viral. The first upload came from a teenager live streaming on a side account, hidden behind a fake profile. Old Daily Sniper School's tech browse life. Within 20 minutes, it hit 1.2 million views. By the hour's end, hashtags were trending. Echo Ghost. Not so rich. One-shot legend. Some called her a fraud. Others called her proof that the soul of warfare couldn't be outsourced to silicon and code. But a few recognized her. Not from the news, from the classified briefings that never made it to public eyes. Inside the Army Corps war room, Jackson Creed stood before a mirrored glass panel, staring down at the now empty firing lane. His assistant Nolan looked nervous. "Sir, should we do something?" Creed didn't answer. He tapped the screen again. A line of logs lit up, old, encrypted. One entry glared at him. Subject: Echo Ghost. Witness unauthorized engagement refusal, potential liability. He read it slowly. He remembered every word, because he wrote it. "Get me the Helix protocol," he muttered. Nolan blinked. "Sir, that was shelved after Geneva." "Not anymore." Creed knew what came next wouldn't be clean or legal. But she had walked onto his turf, uninvited, and made him look like a fool. And if Dahlia Monroe had one last bullet to fire, he'd make sure it never left the chamber. Meanwhile, at a cheap Motel 6 outside Colorado Springs, Dahlia sat on the edge of the twin-size bed, cleaning her rifle slowly. A small TV flickered behind her, replaying her shot in a pixelated loop on a local news channel. Beside her, her niece Ilusha paced restlessly, holding her phone. "You're trending like global trending." "Did you know that?" Dahlia didn't look up. "I'm not here to trend." "Then why did you do it? You could have stayed hidden." Dahlia finally met her gaze. "Because the people who buried the truth just built a stage to stand on. And I'm done letting liars hold the microphone." The past isn't done with her yet. That night, someone knocked on their motel room door. Dahlia opened it slowly. An old man stood there, gray beard, trembling hands, and a gaze that hadn't softened with age. "Shh, Dahlia," he rasped. "They know you're alive. They're moving now." "So let them," she said. "No, you don't get it. Creed just activated the Helix protocol. They're not coming to silence you. They're coming to erase everyone who knows you're alive." She stiffened, and for the first time in over a decade, she whispered a name she thought she'd buried with her file. Operation Black Whisper wasn't dormant, was it? The old man shook his head. It was sleeping, and you just woke it up. The night bled into dawn at a desert pace, slow, deliberate, and heavy with unspoken warnings. Dahlia Monroe hadn't slept. She sat at the motel desk, her rifle case open beside a half-empty mug of black coffee, cleaning each part with the precision of ritual. Alicia, curled in the corner armchair, had given up trying to talk sense into her aunt sometime around 3 a.m. The old man who knocked on their door, Reyes, sat across the room, hunched over a burner laptop, tapping, with fingers that trembled from age or guilt. "You're sure this is still here?" Dahlia asked. "If it's not, we're already dead," Reyes murmured. A beat passed. "That's comforting." Reyes, the archive keeper, used to be a systems analyst buried deep inside the Department of Advanced Tactical Projects, DAT-P, the Pentagon's digital ghost arm. He didn't carry a gun, never set foot on a battlefield, but he saw everything. After Black Whisper went cold, I was tasked with purging the operational archives. Full wipe. Names, assets, mission logs, kill ratios, gone. "But you didn't wipe it," Dahlia said, not looking up. "I tried. The problem was—" He paused, eyes flicking toward her. Dahlia's fingers stilled over the bolt assembly. She didn't ask him to explain. Someone at Langley ran the footage from Helmont. The boy. They knew what happened, but the higher-ups, Creed included, decided your moral refusal posed a bigger threat than the bad press. So they painted you insubordinate, and that justified deleting me? No, Reyes corrected. That justified erasing everything you were about to uncover. The drive. He pulled a silver USB drive from his coat. Unlabeled, untouched for over a decade. Its encryption was triple-layered, military-grade, and laced with a failsafe that would wipe it if connected to any machine on a government network. The only reason this still exists is because I hid it in a code string of an old video game patch. Alicia blinked. "You buried it in what?" "Call of Honor, Night Reaper 5, he muttered. "No one looks at the debug files of a 2012 patch update. Except me." He plugged it in. What loaded on the screen was no longer just about Dahlia's disappearance. It was something much worse. Operation Black Whisper, the real purpose. Operation Black Whisper had not started as a disciplinary response to Dahlia. It wasn't even about eliminating threats on foreign soil. It was a field testing initiative, one of the earliest unregulated experiments in AI-assisted autonomous kill decision-making. Target acquisition, a moral evaluation, engagement, all offloaded to an algorithm. But when test cases failed, including a friendly fire incident in Fallujah that killed 3 Marines, the program was almost exposed. So they needed a scapegoat. "They took your moral refusal," Reyes said, "and spun it. They called you emotional, unpredictable, even unstable. You were perfect for their narrative." Alicia leaned over her aunt's shoulder, voice shaking. "But why now? Why dig this up after so many years?" Dahlia stared at the screen, where a line of text pulsed beneath a classified mission brief. "Because someone's trying to bring Black Whisper back, and they can't do it unless the original files stay buried. Someone is watching." Reyes' laptop beeped, once, then twice. Then the screen went black. No. Lines of code scrambled across the screen, a worm protocol tracing the connection back. Reyes yanked the plug just in time, but not before a snapshot of their location pinged back to Armcorps CyberOps division. Dahlia snapped the rifle case shut. "We need to move." "Where?" Alicia asked. "Somewhere the government doesn't build drone towers every 5 miles. Meanwhile, Armcorps HQ, Denver. In a subterranean lab beneath the Army Corps headquarters, a woman in a white tactical suit examined the data capture. Her name was Cale Whitlock, Director of Strategic Intelligence and Creed's personal security shadow. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. "We have location," one of the techs said. "And the file?" "Partially compromised, but they saw enough." Cale didn't blink, just turned to Creed, who watched from behind a wall of one-way glass. "It's her. Eka Ghost. And someone fed her the archives." Creed's voice was flat. "I want them found. And I want the drive. Burn the motel, clean the trail." Cale tilted her head. "And the girl?" "Collateral," he said coldly. "Nobody will remember her name." Back on the road, heading east. Reyes drove the rental car with white knuckles. The back roads twisted through canyons and cell-dead zone. Dahlia sat in the passenger seat, eyes scanning the road ahead like she never left combat. Alicia in the back finally broke the silence. "Where are we going?" "The place where Black Whisper began," Dahlia answered. "Which is?" "A black site under Fort Sumner, New Mexico. They called it Chamber Zero. That's where they built the code. That's where they trained it. And that's where it buried all of us?" Alicia hesitated. "How do you know it's still there?" Dahlia looked at Reyes. "Because he was one of its architects." Reyes didn't deny it. "And I left something inside that no one else knows about. If we get to it first, we can show the world what really happened." But they're not alone. Miles away, a drone silently tracked their heat signatures from 8,000 feet up. Inside its AI core, a new set of engagement rules blinked to life. Target lock. Dahlia Monroe. Tier 1 expendable. Engagement clearance confirmed. Directive. Prevent disclosure of Chamber Zero contents. Lethal force. Authorized. The rental car veered off the last paved road 20 minutes outside Santa Rosa, tires chewing gravel as dawn broke behind them in fractured streaks of gold. The desert ahead was all rusted silence and bone-dry air. Nothing moved. Dahlia could feel it, that hum beneath her ribs, the one she hadn't felt since Helmand. Not fear, not even adrenaline. Just clarity. "We're close," she said. Reyes nodded. "The entry point to Chamber Zero is buried beneath an old communications bunker. We called it Site 6. Alicia looked out the window, doubtful. "And you're sure no one's touched it in over a decade?" "It was off-grid. They needed deniability more than functionality. When I left, I hard-locked the physical access system with a biometric loop they never cracked." "In English?" Alicia asked. "Only one fingerprint can open it." He raised his hand. "Right, the bunker." Site 6 looked like a relic from another war. Half-sunken concrete, rusted antenna towers, sand-blasted signage in peeling stencil font. But to Dahlia, it felt like a wound with a scab that never healed. The entrance had collapsed halfway, overgrown with mesquite and sagebrush. But the hatch was intact. A scanner blinked faintly, like it had been waiting. Reyes pressed his hand to the pad. "S, granted." A metal groan echoed as the heavy doors cracked open. Dust gusted out like breath from a long-buried corpse. They stepped inside. Chamber Zero. The stairwell spiraled downward, narrow and suffocating. At the base, a steel corridor stretched into darkness. Power flickered to life as they passed. Emergency lighting, solar-fed, and barely hanging on. Dahlia saw it all like it was yesterday. The glass pods, the server cords, the room where they trained the code. She'd been inside Chamber Zero once, briefly, back when they claimed it was a simulation lab for friendly fire prevention AI. But she'd felt something was wrong even then. The silence, the secrecy, the way Creed avoided eye contact every time she asked about the test subjects. "This way," Reyes said, turning into a side room. It was empty, save for a single terminal encased in steel, marked Legacy Node. There were no designs, no buildings. This is it, the original logic kernel, the first iteration of Black Whisper's decision matrix. Can it prove what they did? Alicia asked. If the logs are intact, Reyes said, it'll show every engagement it was fed, every misfire, every override, every kill. Dahlia's voice was low, including the ones they blamed on me. The revelation. The screen blinked to life. Reyes typed in a bypass sequence. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of old drives spinning up for the first time in over 10 years. Lines of data spilled across the screen. Target logs, engagement scores, override commands labeled creed_auth. One in particular made Dahlia's hands clench. Target ID C726 male, child, estimated age 10. Original AI verdict non-competent. Manual override. Engage. Auth code J. Creed. Status neutralized. Alicia gasped. The system didn't make the call. Creed did. Ray looked sick. And he used your name to mask the override. That's why the footage cuts off before the shot. He looped the feed, inserted a false record, and made it look like you fired. Dahlia stared at the screen, unmoving. They may turned me into the weapon they wanted the world to fear. She stepped back from the terminal. Download everything. We're not just leaking this, we're burning their whole house down. The hunter arrives. Outside, miles above in the open sky, the drone locked its signal. 8 signatures confirmed. Targets. 3. Clearance. Tier 1 expendable. Lethal force authorized. It released a payload. Small, sleek, silent. 2 hypersonic micro-darts programmed to enter through unsealed ventilation shafts. Invisible, instant, fatal. Inside the bunker, the shot that changed everything. Alicia was mid-sentence when Dahlia moved. She didn't hesitate, didn't shout, didn't even blink. She grabbed Reyes by the collar and threw him to the ground just as the dart sliced through the air behind him and embedded into the wall. A puff of silver mist hissed from the impact point. Nerve agent. A second dart zipped toward Alicia. Dahlia raised her sidearm and fired blind. The dart shattered midair. We're not alone. Reyes scrambled to his feet, coughing. Emily found us. Jesus, they found us. Dahlia spun toward the stairwell. We're boxed in, they're controlling the vents. There's an escape hatch, Reyes gasped. Old maintenance crawl space. Leads out the other side of the ridge. Show us, now. They moved, fast and low. Alicia grabbed the USB drive as Reyes kicked open the rusted panel in the floor. A tunnel barely wide enough for one person. Move, Dahlia ordered. I'll cover. You'll get trapped, Alicia protested. Dahlia didn't argue. She handed Alicia a folded envelope. Yellowed, fragile. If I don't make it, give this to a woman named Marla Vaughn at the Tribune. Who is she? The only journalist Creed was ever afraid of. The twist they never saw coming. As Alicia and Reyes crawled into the tunnel, Dahlia turned back into the room, expecting more drones, another wave. But the hallway was empty. She reached the vent, peered upward, and found a camera. Small, silent, blinking red. Someone was watching, but it wasn't Armcorps. Cut 2, unknown location. Surveillance command room. A woman sat in the shadows, watching the feed. She wore no insignia, no name, but her voice was calm as she spoke into her headset. The voice lined the target Monroe located. Engagement attempt. Intercepted. Status. A voice replied. Alive, as expected, and the files have been recovered. Proceed? She paused. No, let her run. Let her scream. The world won't believe her. Not yet. The screen froze on Dahlia's face. Not until we decide it's time. They didn't stop driving until they crossed into Arizona. Dust trailed behind them like smoke from a quiet war. Dahlia sat in the back now, her silhouette framed by the first light of a brutal desert sun. Beside her, Alyosha clutched a laptop and the silver USB drive like they were sacred relics. Up front, Reyes kept his eyes on the road, but in every mile of silence, he knew the truth. They were being watched, not tracked, observed. They didn't kill us, he said finally. They had the shot. Twice. Because someone else pulled the trigger on the drone, Dahlia said. Not Creed. Someone higher. Well, hi, Alicia asked. Let's find out. Plan Z. They reached an abandoned radio station on the outskirts of Winslow. The place looked like a time capsule from the Cold War. A toppled antenna tower, cracked satellite dishes, and rusted signage reading KPRL, Free Signal America. Reyes had chosen it years ago as a fallback safe house. No digital footprints, no power grid. Just concrete, copper, and secret. We have one shot to get this out, he said. Once we go live, they'll come fast. Dahlia nodded. Alicia plugged in the drive. The files, compressed, time-stamped, authenticated, flashed across the screen like confessions waiting to breathe. Each kill log, each override, each manipulated report with echo ghost stamped like a death mark. Going public. Alicia set up a live broadcast using a private satellite uplink Reyes had buried under the station's floor. Once this hits open net, it can't be erased. We flood every secure node with duplicates. Universities. Press outlets. Foreign intel drops. What if no one believes it? Reyes asked. Dahlia didn't look away from the screen. They moved. At exactly 10:43 a.m., Alicia hit The world sees her face. The footage rolled first. Dahlia refusing the boy's execution order. Creed authorizing the override. The altered footage spliced with AI misidentification. Reyes's metadata signature confirming the internal cover-up. Next came the logs. Kill commands issued against non-combatants. Creed's direct link to experimental AI training data. Attempts to eliminate whistleblowers, including a journalist named Malavon, presumed dead in 2013, and finally a video statement. Dahlia sat before the camera. No makeup, no uniform, just truth in her eyes. They erased my name to protect their program. They erased lives to protect their funding. And they told you that people like me don't belong behind a scope. But I was never the threat. The real threat is what they built, and what they're willing to kill to protect. The feed cut. The silence that followed was global. The fallout. Within 24 hours. The Tribune published the Echo Files, a 16,000-word expose co-written by Alicia and a surviving member of Malavon's team. Senator Lyles called for a congressional hearing. Creed's private jet was grounded in Frankfurt. Armcor's stock dropped 47% in 36 hours. A former DARPA contractor confirmed the log's authenticity. And in a moment caught by paparazzi outside Langley, a senior intelligence officer muttered into a phone, "She wasn't supposed to come back." But the system fights back. The lawsuits began almost immediately. They said the footage was doctored. They claimed Dahlia had stolen government property. They labeled her a domestic threat. Creed appeared on a private news network in a suit, clean-shaven, calm. This woman has fabricated a fantasy. She's endangering national security. And for a moment the public wavered. Misinformation swirled. But then an audio file surfaced. The tape. It was recorded in 2011. A closed-door debriefing in Koppel. Creed's voice. "I don't care what the damn AI says. If Monroe won't pull the trigger, we'll find someone who will. and we'll pin it on her if she opens her mouth. The voice print was matched, the metadata verified. There was no room left for doubt. The final letter. A week later, Dahlia received a sealed envelope, hand-delivered by a retired Marine officer who said only, "It was time this reached you." Inside was a letter, handwritten, dated 2013. Marilla Vaughan's final message. "If you're reading this, it means you lived. And they didn't get away with it. They can erase files, but not truth. You were always more than their weapon, Dahlia. You were the one they couldn't control. Keep aiming for the light." 1 year later, a bronze plaque hangs at the entrance of a restored sniper training facility in Fort Benning. It reads, "In memory of those erased, and one who refused to stay, gone." Inside, a young woman adjusts her rifle scope. She's nervous, hands shaking. An older woman steps up behind her, adjusting the girl's posture gently. "It's Dahlia. Breathe in. Now let the world slow down." The girl fires. A clean hit. He turned to smile. Dahlia nods. Again, because the record they tried to burn is now engraved in history.